Have you ever loved someone you knew you shouldn't? I mean, really shouldn't, like, the kind of love that could torch everything you've built, burn it all to ash in a single moment. That's where I was at 19, standing in my best friend's kitchen, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. His mom, Claire, smiled at me, not just any smile, but one that felt like it peeled back my skin, like she could see every secret I was too scared to admit, even to myself. Her name was Claire, and she was everything I wasn't supposed to want: older, wiser, radiant in a way that felt like it belonged to another world. She was my best friend Jake's mom, for God's sake, untouchable, forbidden, a line I could never cross. But every time her eyes met mine, it was like she was pulling me into a secret only we shared, a quiet conspiracy that made my chest ache. I tried to ignore it, to shove it down deep where it couldn't hurt anyone, but those glances, they weren't just friendly. They were dangerous, electric, like a spark waiting to ignite. And the worst part? I'm pretty sure she knew it all along. How did I end up here, tangled in a web of guilt, desire, and betrayal that could destroy my friendship, maybe even my life? Let me take you back to that summer, the one that rewrote who I thought I was. I wasn't the kind of guy who courted trouble. Growing up in a sleepy town just outside Seattle, I was the quiet one, the kid who kept his head down, pulled decent grades, and steered clear of drama. My life was predictable: school, part-time jobs, the occasional party where I'd linger in the corner, nursing a soda. Jake, though, he was my opposite: loud, reckless, always dragging me into his half-baked schemes. We'd been best friends since we were 12, bonded over late-night video game marathons and sneaking warm beers from his dad's fridge when we thought we were slick. His house was my sanctuary, a refuge from my own family's chaos, my parents' endless shouting matches, my sister's tearful meltdowns over whatever crisis she'd stumbled into. Jake's place was different. It was warm, alive, like stepping into a world where things made sense. And at the heart of it was Claire. Claire was in her early 40s, but she carried herself like time didn't dare touch her. She had this effortless grace, the kind that didn't scream for attention but pulled it in anyway. Her dark hair fell in loose waves, framing a face that was both soft and sharp, and her eyes, God, those green eyes, could pin you in place, make you feel like you were the only person in the room. She was the kind of mom who made everyone feel like they belonged, always piling plates with too much food, always asking about your day with a sincerity that caught you off guard. To Jake, she was just mom, nagging him about homework, grounding him when he snuck out past curfew. To me, she was something else, something I couldn't name without feeling like I was crossing a line. That summer after high school, I was at their house almost every day. Jake and I had landed part-time gigs at a local car wash, scrubbing down minivans and pickup trucks to save up for college. But mostly, we were just killing time, shooting hoops in their driveway, watching bad action movies in their basement, laughing about nothing. Claire was always there, not hovering, but present, like a quiet thread woven into every moment. She'd bring us lemonade on hot days, tease Jake about his awful jump shot, or ask me about my plans for the future: college, maybe a business degree, I wasn't sure. Normal stuff, right? Except it didn't feel normal. Not to me. It started small, so small I could almost convince myself it was nothing. A lingering glance when she handed me a glass, her fingers grazing mine for a heartbeat longer than necessary. The way she'd laugh at my dumb jokes, not Jake's, just mine, her eyes sparkling like she saw something in me he didn't. I told myself I was imagining it, projecting my teenage hormones onto her kindness. She was married, well, separated, technically. Jake's dad had moved out the year before, a messy split that left a quiet tension in their house, but no one talked about it. Still, she was Claire. Jake's mom. My best friend's mom. I wasn't supposed to notice the way her sundress hugged her curves when she leaned over the counter, or how her voice softened when she said my name, like it was a secret just for us. But I did. And every time I did, guilt slammed into me like a fist, leaving me breathless and ashamed. I tried to shake it off, to focus on Jake, on our stupid plans, on anything else. But then there'd be another moment, her asking me to help carry groceries from her car, standing so close I could smell her lavender perfume, subtle but dizzying. Or the time she caught me staring as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and instead of looking away, she smiled, a slow, knowing smile that felt like a dare. I was 19, drowning in a sea of hormones and confusion, and she was this impossible puzzle I couldn't stop trying to solve. Was she just being nice, maternal, the way moms are supposed to be? Was I losing my mind, reading too much into nothing? Or was there something real in the way she looked at me, something that kept me awake at night, replaying every glance, every word, until I thought I'd go crazy? That question became my shadow, following me everywhere, making me dread and crave every second I spent at their house. By July, I couldn't pretend anymore, not to myself, at least. I was falling for her, hard, and it wasn't just a crush. It was this aching, desperate need that made me feel alive and sick all at once, like I was teetering on the edge of something I couldn't come back from. Every time I was around Claire, my heart raced, my palms sweated, and my brain screamed at me to stop, to get out before I did something stupid. But I couldn't. And the worst part? I started to think she felt it too. One night, Jake and I were sprawled out in his basement, halfway through a horror movie marathon. He passed out on the couch, snoring like a chainsaw, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the flickering glow of the TV. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like it's holding its breath. I figured I'd grab a drink from the kitchen, something to settle the restlessness clawing at me. That's when I saw her. Claire was at the counter, pouring a glass of red wine, her silhouette soft in the dim light of a single lamp. She turned when she heard my footsteps, and instead of saying goodnight or brushing me off, she said, "Can't sleep either, huh?" Her voice was low, almost a whisper, like we were conspirators in some unspoken plot. I mumbled something lame about needing water, my throat tight, but she waved me over, her smile easy but edged with something I couldn't place. "Here," she said, holding out her wine glass. "Try this. It's better than water." I was 19, no way I should have been drinking with her, especially not like this, but I took the glass, my fingers brushing hers for a second that felt like an eternity. That same electric jolt shot through me, sharp and disorienting, and this time, she didn't pull away. She just watched me, her eyes locked on mine as I took a sip, the wine bitter and warm on my tongue. "You're not like Jake," she said, out of nowhere, her voice soft but deliberate. "You're quieter. Deeper." I laughed it off, trying to play it cool, but my heart was hammering so hard I thought she'd hear it. What did she mean? Was she just making small talk, filling the silence? Or was this something else, something that made my stomach twist with equal parts hope and dread? That night was the first time I let myself believe it might be real. Over the next few weeks, it got worse or better, depending on how you look at it. She'd find reasons to talk to me alone, asking for help fixing a wobbly shelf in the garage, inviting me to stay for dinner when Jake had plans with his girlfriend. Each moment felt like a step closer to something I couldn't name but desperately wanted, like we were circling an invisible line, daring each other to cross it. But with every step, the guilt grew heavier, a weight pressing down on my chest. Jake was my best friend, the guy who'd been there through every awkward phase, every dumb fight, every late-night confession about girls or dreams or fears. He trusted me, let me into his home, his family. If he ever found out how I felt about his mom, it'd gut him. It'd destroy us. And what about Claire? Was I just some kid to her, a fleeting distraction from her own loneliness? Or did she feel the same pull I did, the kind that made your heart ache and your head spin? The tension built to a breaking point one humid afternoon in August. Jake was at work, pulling a double shift at the car wash, and I'd stopped by to drop off a hoodie he'd left at my place. Claire answered the door, her hair damp from a shower, wearing a loose t-shirt and shorts that made her look younger, softer, almost like she wasn't someone's mom. She invited me in, her smile warm but with that same edge I'd come to recognize. Before I knew it, we were sitting at the kitchen table, talking not about anything big, just life, dreams, the future. She asked about college, about what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. I rambled, nervous, but it felt so easy, so right, like we were the only two people in the world. Then she said it, "You're too good for this town, Ethan. You're going to break hearts one day." Her voice was teasing, playful, but her eyes weren't. They were searching, intense, like she was waiting for me to say something, to make a move. I froze. My mouth went dry, and every instinct screamed at me to tell her the truth, that I was already breaking, that I couldn't stop thinking about her, that she was the reason I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. But the words wouldn't come. They stuck in my throat, choked by fear and guilt. Instead, I mumbled some half-assed excuse about needing to go, practically tripping over my own feet as I bolted for the door. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out, and as I drove home, I cursed myself for being such a coward. That was the moment I realized I was in too deep. This wasn't just a crush anymore. It was a full-blown obsession, a fire I couldn't put out, and it was tearing me apart. The rest of the summer was torture, a slow-motion train wreck I couldn't stop. I couldn't stay away from Jake's house, no matter how hard I tried. It was like Claire was a magnet, pulling me back even when I knew I should run the other way. Every visit was a minefield, her presence a constant push and pull. I'd catch her watching me, her lips twitching into a smile that felt like it was just for me, a secret we hadn't spoken aloud. But then Jake would walk in, oblivious, laughing about some dumb meme or dragging me into another round of basketball, and I'd hate myself all over again. I started noticing things I hadn't before, the way she'd linger in the room when I was there, her footsteps slowing as she passed by, the way she'd ask about my life in a way that felt too personal, too intimate, like she was trying to know me in a way Jake never would. Was I imagining it? Was I projecting my own screwed-up feelings onto her, seeing what I wanted to see? Or was she really crossing that line, stepping into something dangerous, something neither of us could come back from? One day, it all came to a head. Jake had invited me over for a barbecue, just the three of us, a low-key thing to cap off the summer. It was one of those perfect evenings, the kind where the air smells like charcoal and cut grass, the sky streaked with pink and gold. Claire was in her element, laughing as she flipped burgers, passing out cold drinks, her hair catching the last of the sunlight. To anyone else, it was just a normal night, a mom hosting her son and his friend. But to me, every glance she sent my way felt loaded, like a question I was too scared to answer, a challenge I wasn't sure I could meet. After dinner, Jake's phone buzzed, his girlfriend, probably, and he wandered off to take the call, leaving me and Claire alone on the patio, the cicadas humming in the background. The silence was heavy, thick with something unspoken. She leaned back in her chair, her wine glass dangling lazily from her fingers, and looked at me, her eyes catching the light. "You've been quiet lately, Ethan," she said, her voice light but with an edge, like she was testing the waters. "Something on your mind?" My throat tightened, my pulse spiking. I tried to play it cool, shrugging, but my voice cracked, betraying me. "Just figuring stuff out," I said, lame and unconvincing. She didn't let it go. She leaned forward, her elbows on the table, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "You can tell me, you know. Whatever it is." Her eyes held mine, steady, searching, like she already knew what I was too afraid to say. My heart stopped. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and dreaming of for weeks. I could have told her everything right then, how I couldn't sleep because her face was burned into my mind, how every smile she gave me felt like a lifeline and a curse, how I was drowning in her without ever touching her. But I didn't. The words were there, heavy on my tongue, but fear clamped them down. Instead, I looked away, muttering something vague about college stress, my voice barely audible. She didn't push, but the way she leaned back, her expression unreadable, made me feel like I'd failed something, her, myself, whatever this was. The moment passed, but it left a mark, a bruise I could still feel days later. The next few weeks were a blur of avoidance and obsession, a tug-of-war between my head and my heart. I started finding excuses to skip hanging out with Jake, extra shifts at work, errands for my mom, anything to keep me away from their house. But I'd still end up there, drawn back by some invisible force I couldn't resist. Claire didn't make it easier. She'd text me sometimes, nothing blatant, just innocent stuff, like asking if I could pick up Jake from work or grab something for her from the store when I was out. But each message felt like a secret, a thread tying us closer together, pulling me into her orbit. I saved every one, rereading them late at night when I couldn't sleep, hating myself for the way my heart leapt at her name on my screen. I knew it was wrong, knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't stop. I didn't want to. Then came the night that broke me. Jake was out of town for a weekend camping trip with his dad, some forced bonding thing to patch up their rocky relationship. My phone buzzed late on a Friday, Claire's name lighting up the screen. Her voice was shaky when I answered, not like her at all. She said the power had gone out at their house, something about the breaker tripping, and she didn't know how to fix it. "Could I come over?" "Just for a few minutes," she said. I shouldn't have gone. I knew it even as I grabbed my keys, my hands trembling. But I did, because it was her, because I couldn't say no to her, not then, not ever. When I got there, the house was dark, lit only by a handful of candles she'd scattered across the living room. She was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her face pale in the flickering light, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. I fixed the breaker in 10 minutes, it was just a flip switch, nothing major, but she asked me to stay, her voice soft, almost pleading. "I don't want to be alone in the dark," she said, and something in her tone made my chest ache. We sat on the couch, inches apart, the candlelight dancing across her face, casting shadows that made her look both fragile and untouchable. She started talking, her words spilling out like she'd been holding them in for years, about her marriage falling apart, about how Jake's dad had left her feeling invisible, about how she wanted more from life, something real, something that made her feel alive again. I listened, my heart pounding, because I wanted to be the one to give her that more, to be the one who saw her when no one else did. Then she looked at me, her eyes glistening in the dim light, and said, "You make me feel seen, Ethan." My breath caught, sharp and painful. The air between us felt charged, like a storm about to break. Before I could stop myself, the words slipped out, raw and reckless, "You have no idea what you do to me." They hung there, heavy, undeniable, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Then she reached out, her hand brushing mine, her fingers warm and tentative, and I swear I felt the world tilt, like everything I knew was about to come crashing down. But nothing happened. Not because we didn't want it to, God, we did, I could see it in her eyes, feel it in the way her hand lingered, but because the doorbell rang, sharp and jarring, shattering the moment. It was Jake, back early from his trip, his face lighting up when he saw me. "Dude, you're here," he said, oblivious to the tension that hung in the air like smoke. Claire pulled her hand back, her expression shifting to something neutral, practiced, like she'd flipped a switch. She smiled at Jake, asked about his weekend, and just like that, she was his mom again, not the woman who'd just turned my world upside down. But I saw it, the flicker in her eyes, the way she wouldn't look at me as Jake rambled on about fishing and campfires. Something had happened, even if we hadn't crossed that final line. Something we couldn't take back. That was the last time I let myself be alone with her. I couldn't keep doing this, couldn't keep living in this limbo of guilt and desire, teetering on the edge of something that could ruin everything. I started pulling away, taking extra shifts at the car wash, staying home to avoid their house. Claire didn't push, didn't text, didn't call, but I'd catch her watching me sometimes when I couldn't avoid being there, her eyes full of something I couldn't let myself name, something that made my heart ache and my stomach twist. Jake never suspected a thing, and maybe that was the worst part. He trusted me, called me his brother, invited me into his home without a second thought. And I'd come so close to betraying him, to breaking everything we'd built over years of friendship. I still don't know if she felt what I did, or if I was just a kid caught up in a fantasy, seeing what I wanted to see because I was too young and too stupid to know better. But that summer changed me. It taught me how thin the line is between right and wrong, how love can feel like a gift and a curse, lifting you up and tearing you apart all at once. I never told Jake, and I probably never will. Some secrets are too heavy to share, too dangerous to let out into the world. They stay locked inside you, a weight you carry alone, a reminder of the person you almost became. Have you ever had a crush you couldn't admit, one that made you question everything you thought you knew about yourself? Drop it in the comments, I'm dying to hear your stories, to know I'm not the only one who's been here. And if this hit you as hard as it hit me, hit that like button, share it with someone who gets it, someone who knows what it's like to want something you can't have. Don't miss the next one, because trust me, it's only going to get crazier from here.